advisor. He will be mine. And when he talked to him, he said to him, إِنَّكَ الْيَوْمَ لَدَيْنَا مَكِينٌ أَمِينٌ, means you are now assured and you are trusted. And here comes Yusuf with a very specific request, which also created a very nice and healthy debate in the cycles of jurisprudence. Yusuf said, make me in charge of the treasury. I am a good keeper and I am knowledgeable in that. Very assertive, as you know. People coming out of jail, he's just not going to kiss the hands of the king and go home or put his name on the list of honor. He is assertively, I am good at that, I want to do it. This created a debate in jurisprudence about the fiqh of politics, because the Prophet said in one hadith that talibul wilayati la yuwalla, that the one who seeks the ruling position should not be given it, because this means that he has the ambitions. But this of course was refuted, because the idea is it is not you wanted to be the boss or you wanted to control people or something. If you have a certain talent, you can then run for the job. And this is exactly what Yusuf did. He nominated himself. I can do it. And so he was assigned to that. Let's go to the next. The Quran says this is the way we God Almighty established Yusuf in the land. He can do whatever he wants, and this is a mercy from God that will be bestowed upon whom God feels that he deserves it, and Allah does not waste the reward for those who do good deeds. And not only that, his reward in Al-Akhirah is even more than that, as well as for those who attain to faith and are God conscious. This closes that chapter of the story. He was the difficult times are over. The jail period, the prison period is over, and he came out of jail and he was established and he was trusted, and then he was assigned in charge of a very high position in Egypt at that time. One side note here, remember when he took over, there was a famine in that whole area of the Middle East, and the only place that was saved, the famine was still to come, the famine was still to come, because Yusuf came with the dream he saw, the message that the king saw, and came with a policy that during these 7 years there will be years of saving, so people will use what they need, but the rest will be saved, or the rest of the crop. Then when comes the other 7 years, he will use what have been stored to sustain the country during that time. So we find here a good economy anyways, economic theory, that at the times of ease, saving should take a priority, because at the time of hardship, these savings can be used. A new chapter now will start, a chapter of a mixture of human drama and divine intervention to bring full satisfaction and to start a new era in history anyways, because after that consequences happened. at that time, the brothers of Yusuf, the ones who threw him in the well and wanted to get rid of him, obviously came to Egypt because this is where people will come to. As I said, the rest of the area was stricken by this very bad economy, and people used to go to Egypt to get their needs. It seems that the policy was everyone who comes will be given, they were rationing the supply of wheat. Each one who comes will be given a camel load of wheat, bartered for, the trading at that time was bartering. You give certain things and you get wheat. So each one was allocated a camel load of wheat to use, not any amount he wants to buy. It's exactly like when there is a sale in Vaughn's and they tell you one chicken per person or whatever, because the demand is more than the supply. So we need to understand these subtle background things to appreciate the story. When they went, the brothers of Yusuf went to buy, he recognized them while they did not. And then he ولما جهزهم بجهازهم, after he gave them their needs, he tells them, there is another brother of yours, next year you bring him with you. That's his direct brother from the same mother, Benjamin. When they came 10 of them, leaving Benjamin behind, because at that time the father, after he lost Yusuf, was not trusting them with the other one. He did not allow them to take him with them. So Yusuf, when he knew that those are his brothers, told them, next year when you come, you bring, and the Quran is very accurate here, بِأَخٍ لَكُمْ مِنْ أَبِيكُمْ, a brother of yours from your father's side. In other words, he is not a full brother. Min abikum, only from your brother, which was his direct brother then. And he says, you see that I have been kind to you, I gave you your needs and slightly more, and I dealt with you وَأَنَا خَيْرُ الْمُنْزِلِينَ with great hospitality. So we know that they were received with hospitality, they got their needs, and there is that request from them that when you come again, and obviously this visit was once a year, you bring with you this other brother. Would you go next, please? They know the background, so they said, سَنُرَاوِدُ عَنْهُ أَبَاهُ, we'll negotiate with his father, and surely we will do that. In other words, they are hinting that it is a difficult job to convince the father, after this history, to allow him to go. And Yusuf told his workers that put back in their camels the goods they brought to barter the wheat. In other words, he practically gave them the wheat they needed for free. He said, just put them in their luggage without telling them. So when they go back, they find it will have a good impression on them. And surely this happened when they went and they found this nice surprise. They tell their father, يا أبانا منع منا الكيل, we will not be able to get this thing again. They are talking about the future. that because the guy said the decision is you will not barter again if you don't bring your brother. That deal was done. We are talking about the next deal. So please send with us our brother so that we can buy what we need, and we will really take care of him. وَإِنَّ لَا لَحَافِظُونَ, will be the good keepers of him. And the father, in still reprimanding them, still the memories are painful. He says, should I trust you with him like I trusted you with his brother before? Allah is the best keeper, and He is the one who is the most merciful of all mercifuls. Let's go to the next one. When they opened their luggage and they found that their goods are there, and so they were, it's a nice gift, it's a nice surprise, they go to convince their father again and say, we got our goods back, we can go and we supply our people and we keep our brother, and وَنَزْدَادُ كَيْلَ بَعِيرٍ, we'll get one camel more because there is one camel for each person. So if you send him with us, he will be entitled to an extra portion. I always read these things with a smile. Obviously, they are very shrewd business people from the very beginning. Whatever can get some more extra, let us do it. So we got a good deal. If it is a person like Salah Hamdan, we say, Alhamdulillah, finished. But why not some more? And so they say, send with us our brother. We get you what your needs, and we get a good deal, and also we have a person, so we will be entitled to one more camel. It's great business mind anyways, without further comments, so that I don't get the accusation. It is in the eyes of the beholder. And they say ذَلِكَ كَيْلٌ يَسِيرٌ, because what we got is not enough. Typical. What we got is not enough. Let us get some more if we can. Send with us the young kid. We get one whole camel. Why not? The father here is still very hesitant. He said, I will not send him with you until you give me تُؤْتُونِ مَوْثِقًا مِنَ اللَّهِ, a covenant, a pledge, an oath with God, that you will bring him back with you unless you are completely surrounded and you yourselves are captured. There must be a compelling reason not to bring him back. Then when they gave the oath, he said, Allahu ala ma naqulu wakil, that he ratified the pledge. Allah is witnessing, and he will take care of that. Then there is a side story here. He told them, when you go, don't enter all the 11 of you from one entry, enter from different entries. And the Quran alludes that this was a psychological need to Yaqub. In Jacob, we didn't know what it is. This area is a mystery. Commentators wrote so many things. Of course, Egyptians will say so that they don't get the evil eye. Others will say otherwise. But whatever, the idea is he has something in his mind that they should not go as a bunch. And I imagine that they may be perceived as a threat or as whatever. We don't really know. He told them go from different entries to the city. And he says, and after all, whatever Allah decides will happen. Keep going. The story goes on. Very dramatic events will happen, with great controversy in the interpretations. But what happened is they went there. Yusuf recognized his brother, and obviously he told him that you are my brother. They gave them their needs, and according to the most plausible interpretation, Yusuf put the golden cup of the king. Remember that Yusuf was in charge of everything. He can give anything to anybody. In the luggage of his brother as a favor or as a gift or whatever. And when they were about to leave, one of the soldiers or the workers shouted, أيها العير إنكم سارقون. You are thieves, because we are missing the cup of the king. And their response was, we swear we didn't come to spread corruption, we didn't come to steal, we are not thieves, we are innocent. Then they said, let us search. And so they started searching, and lo and behold, the cup was found in the luggage of Benjamin. Here it must have been a very traumatic experience, and we find a very strange reaction of the brothers. They were shocked, but their response was, if he has stolen, he had a brother who was a thief also. They wanted to distance themselves completely from those two brothers. They wanted to absolve themselves from any responsibility. We have nothing to do with him. And the older brother said, hey guys, we give a solemn oath to our father that we will take him back. So let us negotiate some solution for this dilemma. And he said, no matter what, I will not come back with you. I can't face my father. Told him, we lost the first one, we lost the second one. I can't. I will not go back with you. So they negotiated with the king, saying, how about if you take one of us instead? The law of the land was whoever steals something is given as a slave to the owner. That was the law of the land. Some commentators say this was the Israelite law as well. I did not find confirmation of that. But most probably it was an Egyptian law. And it was not really an Egyptian law, it was the ruler's law at that time, because Egypt was not ruled by a pharaoh, was ruled by Al-Aziz, a king. These were the Hyksos, which was an occupying force until it was liberated on the hands of Ramses later on. So they said, take one instead, and the response was, Ma'ad Allah, we cannot break the law. The law is the one who stole is the one who is given. And the Quran comments on, this is the way that God planned the things on behalf of Yusuf to keep his brother with him. The biblical story in Exodus tells a different story. The biblical stories say that Yusuf made that whole plan. He is the one who plotted all this so that he can keep his brother, because the law will prevent him of keeping him against the will of his 10 brothers. The Quranic story does not go this way. It kept it like what I'm telling you, but the commentators being that the culture of Islam to hold the prophets in the highest esteem, they did not accept that a prophet of God will cheat to keep his brother. So they insisted on the interpretation that Yusuf has nothing to do in this plan, and they confirm this opinion by the Quran saying, كَذَلِكَ كِدْنَا لِيُوسُف. This is the way we planned for Yusuf, otherwise he wouldn't have been able to keep his brother. But anyways, this is what happened. They went back to the father, and we find here something very human. Guess what? The older brother didn't go. So the father now lost 3 sons. Yusuf, Benjamin, and the older brother who said, I will not go. I can't face my father. So of course the father was devastated, but when he started crying, he started crying how much he misses Yusuf. And this is really human. Tragedies remind you with other tragedies. And it is one loss will irritate the old wound that is in the heart. His heart is really wounded for Yusuf. So the loss of the others reminds him with that old wound of Yusuf. So he starts crying for Yusuf, and the Quran says, وَبْيَضَّتْ عَيْنَهُ. The biyaddat means became white. Some people say he lost his vision. Some people say his eyes were always covered with tears, that he can't even see clearly. And he said these very tender words, قال إنما أشكو بثي وحزني إلى الله وأعلم من الله ما لا تعلمون. I complain of my distraction, I anguish to Allah, I know of Allah what you don't know. In other words, with all this sorrow, he is still hoping in the mercy of God that will heal his wounds and remedy his agony. And he didn't give up, but he says something that is immortalized and became part of our Islamic culture and philosophy and belief. He says, يا بني اذهبوا فتحسسوا من يوسف وأخيه. Go and just keep searching and inquire. تحسسوا means, when you touch things. Don't leave a stone unturned. Go and look very carefully for Yusuf and his brother. وَلَا تَيْأَسُوا مِنْ رَوْحِ اللَّهِ. Don't ever despair from the mercy of Allah, because the one who despairs from the mercy of Allah is bent on denying the truth or is a kafir. And from then on, we consider the despair as an option that is not acceptable to Muslims. And we quote the verse a lot. Once things are very difficult, we say, إِنَّهُ لَا يَيْأَسُ مِنْ رَوْحِ اللَّهِ إِلَّا الْقَوْمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. Only kafirs will give up on and become desperate because they ignore the possibility of the mercy of Allah to be poured on them at the proper time. And this is a very important lesson from the story of Yusuf that we get. And it will turn out to be rewarding, as you know. Let us go to the next one. We jumped again. Yeah. Yeah. All right. What happened, of course, is when he told them to go, and look, they went back to Yusuf, and they tell, Ya Ayyuha al-Aziz, or the Great One, and whether they are talking to Yusuf or to Aziz, who is the king of Egypt, we have been hurt a lot, us and our family and our father. We are really suffering and inflicted. So have mercy on us. They are asking now for leniency. The guy there is losing his vision and is crying continuously, and we showed good faith by keeping one of us here, and we just cannot, we are pleading to your kindness to get us out of this mess. At that time, Yusuf revealed himself to them. In the conversation, he confronted them. Do you remember what you did to Yusuf before? And so they said, Wallahi, لَإِنَّكَ أَنْتَ Yusuf. They discovered, we swear by God, we now recognize that you are Yusuf. And they, of course, go through great remorse. And they say, إِنَّا كُنَّا مِنَ الْخَاطِئِينَ. We were really wrong, and they ask for forgiveness. And here is another story. The same dignity and magnanimity and the greatness of Yusuf that he showed when he was a prisoner, who refused to be released unless his name is cleared. The same greatness that he showed when he was exposed to temptation. When he was in the palace, he shows also the same greatness to those guys now who actually wanted to kill him, who really completely abandoned him at a very difficult position. And he says, "La tathrib alaykum," or may God forgive you and forgive me and forgive you. Begins are begins. And so take my shirt and go to my father. And the story goes on in a nice kind drama. When they came closer by the father, he said, Wallahi inni la ajidu riha Yusuf. I smell the aroma of Yusuf. And the people around him said, لا تفتح تذكر يوسف حتى تكون حرضا أو تكون من الهالكين. You will keep speaking about Yusuf until you break your body and your soul and you perish. But he insists. Then ولما جاء البشير, the one who is carrying the glad tidings or the good news with the shirt, and put him on the face of Jacob, either if it is just tears, dried his tears, or if he was blinded, his vision became clear. And we have that happy ending of the story. They all go back to Yusuf. When they go there, Yusuf carries his parents and put them on the throne. And they bowed to him or prostrated to him, and here the memory of the very early childhood. He tells him, Ya Abati, this is the interpretation of that original dream that you told me not to tell my brothers about. The dream was, إني رأيت الشمس والقمر رأيتهم لي ساجدين إني رأيت 11 كوكبا والشمس والقمر رأيتهم لي. I have seen 11 stars and moon and sun bowing to me. And so, of course, the moon and sun here were the symbol of the father and mother, and the 11 stars are the 11 brothers. And Allah made it come true, and Allah was so kind to me when He delivered me out of prison, and when He brought you back from the desert, after Shaitan set discord between me and my brothers. And the lesson here is, every good thing in the life of this man, he is attributing to God. Every good thing that happened, he is not claiming neither this is a hit of luck, nor this is my doing. It is everything else. He is giving the full credit to Allah, and through all the horrible times he passed through, he says, وَقَدْ أَحْسَنَ بِي إِذْ أَخْرَجَ مِنَ السِّجْنِ. Allah was kind to me. And this is the next lesson that we get from this story. Things happen to everybody. Everybody in this hall had good things and bad things happen to him or to her. It's only few who can see the good more than the bad. There are some people, the only thing they are ready to remember are awful things. I have bad luck since I was born. Everything bad happened. I had the worst parents. I have lived in the worst area. I went to the worst school. I had the worst teachers. You name it. They only, and probably they are true, but this is all what they remember. They cannot see that after all, they brought me up. After all, I got it. They don't. Some people have predilection to tragedies, but they fail to see the good things that come with them. And there is an Arabic poetry that says, how come you complain while there is nothing to complain about? How come you can see the thorn in the flower and you can't see the drops of the dew on it? Because the eye catches that painful thorns in the flower, but did not catch the beauty. And so we find Yusuf here is taking a totally different attitude. After all this saga, since very early childhood, when he was thrown away and picked up and sold for a very cheap price for a few pennies, and after that accused falsely, then thrown in jail for a long time, and so on and so forth. After what he is saying, قَدْ أَحْسَنَ بِي رَبِّي إِذْ أَخْرَجَنِي مِنَ السِّجْنِ. Allah was kind to me when he got me out of jail. Somebody else would say, Allah was so tough with me, he put me in jail. So they see the entry to jail, they don't see the exit from jail. And this is something for us to ponder and to learn. This is the whole idea of Quran telling us stories, to show us the different attitudes and the different patterns. And instead of saying, I was kicked away from you and deprived of you, he say, he also was kind when he brought you back to me. And then what is the bad thing attributed to shaitan? من بعد أن نزغ الشيطان بيني وبين إخوتي. Shaitan is put the discord between me and my brethren. Another person will say that those brethren were a bunch of criminals and losers. But he didn't even say that. It is just Shaitan set discord between us. Didn't even say Shaitan ruined them or lured them. No, he said set discord amongst us. Very, very noble attitude that I wish that one day we can come close to that. إن ربي لطيف لما يشاء, which is the prayer, إنه هو العليم الحكيم. That should conclude this great story with its wealth of different lessons from the very beginning until the last end. And that also concludes my 12 weeks series. And thank you very much for listening to me all the time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.